Hello, and welcome to the UW Oshkosh Counseling Center's course on Mental Health PPE. Just as we use PPE, such as masks, to protect our bodies during the pandemic, it is also important to protect our mind and emotional health. Please join us in learning strategies and ideas to protect your mental health. Today's presentation is going to focus on the overarching idea of mental flexibility. Mental or psychological flexibility is the ability to stay in the present moment and to take action that's guided by our values. Put more simply, it's the ability to be present, be open and accepting of our experiences, and to do what matters to us. Today's presentation will walk us through the points on this slide, including staying in the present, focusing on your values, how to watch your thinking, practicing acceptance of your experiences, how to tap into your grit, and some suggestions on limiting your media intake. We hope that these will give you strategies that you can use in each of these areas. We can apply psychological flexibility to reactions to the COVID pandemic. For example, you might be triggered by experiences such as loss of meaningful activities, such as hobbies and work. Or you could be triggered by media coverage of the pandemic and your thoughts and feelings about the pandemic. You might also find yourself thinking about the past, what it was like before the pandemic happened, or thinking about the future. What will it be like a few weeks or a few months from now? These examples typically bring up difficult reactions, and for most of us, it's hard to imagine how to use mental flexibility in these moments. So today, we will help give you ideas and strategies that you can use with similar triggers and situations. You can also apply mental or psychological flexibility to reactions to bias incidents and social injustices. For example, you may be triggered and experience strong reactions to situations such as reading about or witnessing firsthand bias incidents. You might be triggered by seeing people with your identity targeted by hate and injustices. Or you might be triggered by witnessing difficult and intense conversations about race, identities, and belonging. Again, these are situations that naturally bring up difficult emotions for all of us. And most of us don't typically think of mental flexibility as a possible way to cope. So we're going to help you learn how to have that mental flexibility as we go through our presentation today. First, we're going to cover staying in the present. You may have noticed your mind time traveling to either the past or the future rather than staying in the present. You might be thinking, did I do the right thing yesterday? Or will I get a job when I graduate? It's very easy to get pulled into time traveling rather than living in the present. So we're going to discuss skills you can use to stay in the present. So for staying in the present, this means being here in this moment right now. Being here now which is being mindful or practicing mindfulness, is vital to protecting our mental health. Now, do we have to be on a beautiful mountaintop, sitting cross-legged to be mindful? Absolutely not. The best way to practice mindfulness is to sprinkle it throughout the day in everyday kind of moments. So what does being here now actually mean? It's a way to drop in and notice the following things. What are we thinking? What kinds of emotions are we having? How is our body feeling? And what is happening in our environment or surroundings? Another question to ask yourself is, where are we if we are not here? Most often we're thinking about the future or the past rather than paying attention to the now. To give a simple example, think about this the next time you are in the shower and check and ask yourself, am I in the shower right now? For example, you might find that you're mentally playing through what's going to happen later that day. Or you might find that you're thinking about something that happened yesterday. And so really challenge yourself. Are you actually there in the shower? Are you feeling the water on your skin? Or are you instead pulled off into the future or into the past? So this is a very simple way you can just have an everyday moment of mindfulness and staying in the present. So now let's practice what it's like to have a mindful minute. This activity is from Jonah Paquette. And in our busy world, it's very important to take time and slow down in order to become one with the present moment. Whenever you find yourself feeling stressed, try taking even a single minute to slow down and cultivate mindful awareness. Whether you are in class or in your car, whether you're sitting down or standing, this can be done just about anywhere. All you need for this activity is a minute of silence. So as I walk you through it, feel free to close your eyes if you'd like, although you don't have to. And for the next minute, put aside anything you are doing and focus on the following. Feel your breath come in and out through your nostrils. Feel it filling up your chest and lungs, and notice it as you exhale. Use your senses to notice what's happening around you. Hear the sounds around you. Feel the temperature of the air against your skin. And notice any smells, tastes, or textures. Observe whatever emotions and thoughts are within you right in this moment. Simply notice these without judgment and without any desire to change them. Notice when your mind drifts and bring it back each time to this moment. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come fully back. Now can be a great time to pause this recording and reflect on your experience doing this activity or discuss it with others as well. So to summarize, by fully experiencing what's happening within us and around us, we can respond rather than simply react to life's stressors. By spending more time in the present and less time worrying about the past or the future, we can over time become both happier and healthier. Even a brief mindfulness practice like this one can help us to slow down and become more present. Now we're going to look at knowing your values. Often we are not clear about what our values are and what truly matters to us. Especially in times of distress or struggle, it can be difficult to focus on actions that match your values and fit what is important to you. So knowing your values can help you choose actions that are right for you. You may be wondering, how do you identify your values? Here we have outlined ways that you can define and uncover your values. Please take a moment to pause this recording and to answer these questions, which will help to guide you to identify times you are happiest in your life, identify times you were most proud, and identify times that you were most satisfied or fulfilled in your life. So please take a moment now to pause and complete this exercise. After completing this exercise, you can reflect on what your answers tell you. What did they show as important to you? What did they show that you value? When you are experiencing challenging times or difficult emotions or difficult thoughts, we often lose sight of what is important to us. So continue to consider, what are the areas of life that are important to you? This could be areas of life such as leisure, your job, your relationships, community, or it could be ways you want to live your life, such as connecting with others, integrity, humor, kindness. Once you're able to determine your values, it's then critical to take actions that bring you closer to those values. So for example, if you wish to have more connection, you can take time to reach out to those in your life, to call them, text them, email them, FaceTime them, and to be doing that on a regular basis. We're going to now look at watching your thinking. Most of us have moments where we buy into unhelpful thoughts and have a hard time letting go of difficult thoughts. For example, you may find yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or this is not going to work out. So we're going to give you some tools for watching your thinking. Now we're going to do another writing exercise. First, reflect on your day so far. Think about what you did today, who you talked to, how you felt, and areas of difficulty that you encountered today. We typically have an ongoing stream of thoughts that we are thinking throughout each day. Now take a moment to reflect and write down 2 helpful thoughts you had today. And then write down 2 unhelpful thoughts you had today. This can be a good time to pause and complete the writing activity. After completing this activity, you can reflect on what you noticed about your thoughts when watching more of your thinking. What are the patterns you're seeing and what stands out to you? Now I'm going to take you through an experiential activity, imagining your hands as your thoughts. So hold your hands together, palms open, as if they're the pages of an open book. Then I'd like you to slowly and steadily raise your hands up towards your face. Keep going until they're covering your eyes. Then take a few seconds to look at the world around you through the gaps in between your fingers and notice how this affects your view of the world. Think about what would it be like going around all day with your hands covering your eyes in this manner. How much would it limit you? How much would you miss out on? How would it reduce your ability to respond to the world? What can happen is we become so caught up in our thoughts that we can lose contact with the here and now experience. And our thoughts can end up having a huge influence over our behavior. Now, once again, I'd like you to cover your eyes with your hands, but this time, lower them from your face very, very slowly. As the distance between your hands and your face increases, notice how much easier it is to connect with the world around you. So when we become more aware of our thoughts and the impact that they have on us, we can then determine how we want to respond to our thoughts, such as giving them attention, bringing to mind another thought that would be more helpful, or engaging in an activity that might help us. Watching your thoughts involves creating space between yourself and your thoughts, so they have less of a hold over you, such as observing your thoughts as you would observe cars driving past your house. Now we're going to talk about practicing acceptance. A natural reaction to difficult moments is to reject what is happening, to grasp for things to be different, or to ignore our feelings. For example, you may find yourself saying, "If only this happened," or "Why can't things be different?" What's much harder is to accept the difficult situation. And that's what we're going to cover now. Acceptance means opening up and making room for painful feelings, sensations, emotions. Acceptance is where we drop the struggle and we give ourselves some breathing space and allow our thoughts, our feelings to be as they are. So instead of fighting them or resisting them, running away from them, getting overwhelmed, we take a different path. We open up to them and let them be. A really important note is this doesn't mean that we like or want the situation. It doesn't mean we approve of a situation. It simply means we're making room for our experiences. We know that loss and sadness and fear and a range of other emotions are inevitable in this situation. One path we can take is we can refuse to accept the situation and make ourselves even more miserable. On the other hand, we can accept the situation with all of its pain and find ways we can get through it and connect with others. Here we have a handful of acceptance practices that you can try. You can observe that you are questioning or fighting reality. This might happen when you tell yourself, it shouldn't be this way. You can attend to bodily sensations as you think about what it is you need to accept. It's healthy to allow disappointment, sadness, or grief to arise within you, and then you can figure out what you need from there. Finally, acknowledging to yourself that life can be worth living even when there is pain. So I encourage you to try one or all of these practices for acceptance. Now we're going to talk about how you can tap into your grit. Often we can fall into the trap of only seeing one side of ourselves. Or we might keep telling ourselves the same story about ourselves. For example, we always say to ourselves, I'm not good at giving presentations. A very powerful approach is tapping into our grit and noticing our strengths and our full selves. So what is grit? Grit is about sustained, consistent effort toward a goal, even when we struggle, falter, or temporarily fail. And resilience is our ability to bounce back after we have struggled. Grit can best be understood by taking what's called the grit scale to understand your level of grit. So if you could go to this website listed here and pause the presentation and take the scale and get your score and your feedback from the website. Now that you've taken the scale, please engage in self-reflection. Consider what is it about your answers or your score that surprises you? And what is it about your answers or your score that inspires you? During our final section, we're going to talk about how to limit your media intake. Too much media consumption is not good for your health and may activate fight or flight responses and increase your perception of threat in your daily environment. Scrolling through social media and checking your apps frequently may increase the feeling that you do not have control over your life and world events. You also may not even intend to view current events online while you're scrolling. So some suggestions and strategies you can use. You can schedule times to check social media and the news one time a day so that your media consumption is intentional. You can do a self-check-in before and after media usage to gain awareness of how the media is affecting you. You can practice being aware of when you are consuming media in all of its forms. In order to balance some of the effects of media, you can focus on what you can control in your life. When you watch media, that can make you feel like you're not in control and that you're a passive consumer of the media. And so knowing what's in your control can be helpful. You can choose to get outside and be active in order to combat that feeling. And you can do things that bring you joy. You can try to be intentional about picking activities that you enjoy and that help you disconnect from media and technology. A final thought we wanted to share is about how emotions are contagious. We've heard a lot about how viruses are contagious throughout this pandemic, but it's also important to know that emotions are contagious as well. We automatically mimic other people's expressions or body language, tone of voice, and we tend to then feel those emotions that others share. And sometimes, without our realizing it's happening, we can catch those feelings from other people and be influenced by others' emotions. So try noticing how you are influenced by other people's moods and emotions. And notice also how your emotions affect other people. After noticing this, you can then try to redirect conversations away from catastrophizing and fear and towards calm and caring. We also want to leave you with some resources. We have some mindfulness apps listed, including Stop, Breathe, and Think and Insight Timer. We encourage you to visit our counseling center website. On our website, you can find specific information about coping with the pandemic, as well as links to our YouTube channel that has videos, and our podcast channel. And finally, if you want to learn more about grit, the link is listed below with angeladuckworth.com. And then there's a book, Emotional Grit, that could also be of interest. Thank you for participating in today's presentation and for taking the time to protect your mental and emotional health. Be well.